Say, hey, kitty. Kitty cat. Whoa. So just let the stream kind of kick up, do its thing, gets things going, see what's up. Gonna get the kitty. Kitty cat. It's my little loser party on a Saturday night with my cat. Where's the cat? Here she is. Here she is. Oh my goodness, you're so cute. And you sit here and have people be like, oh no, I'm an animal. I'm being so mean to my animals. She's a very well loved cat, I promise. I'm an extremely allergic to cats person, and yet we adopted her. She's old grandma cat. She's like 13 years old, but she's living a life like she's a kitten. Like she's never had this kind of life before. She gets really good food. We play pouncers all the time. She'll jump like 8 feet in the air. She likes to hang out on the shelves in our closet. She gets on top of the refrigerator and all sorts of stuff. Made her a little playhouse. Yeah, didn't I? Made her a playhouse out of the boxes that they sent to my house when I got fired. And hello, good to see you. Welcome to the loser party there, Mateo. Happy to see you, as always. You gonna disappear right away again? I don't know. I just kind of felt like sitting down and uh, being around. But I have like one specific thing that I did that was like super, super loser ish. I did it today, and so I um, thought maybe I would share with the ever expanding void of the universe or whatever. But yeah, see, but I will tease you about that because, like, half the time, like, I'll see you have shown up, and I'll be talking to you, and you will have apparently disappeared like immediately. So it's like, well, it's nice to see repeats, but it's not a beer. You will get to know me and my I have a pretty heavy energy drink habit. I appreciate the likes when you remember. Most of the time, like I don't see a whole lot of likes, and so it would be nice if more people did that. I tried to get um I tried to get more of my friends to do that for me, just for I hate the whole like shill of it where you're like for the algorithms, but it would it would certainly be nice if m- more times weren't me just talking to myself. Right. So it's like it's one of those things where um I know there's certain things that I need to do. Like the one of the things that I need to do is like nobody's going to randomly come across what is currently on the channel um real easily because I haven't spent a whole lot of time with like keywords and all of that stuff. And then even if they did come across it, like every video is over an hour long. So even if you did see it, it's just kind of why would you watch an hour long video of somebody? So like I know what I need to do is kind of or what I want to do is go into like the individual videos because some and like clip out the parts that are kind of worth a part of it. Well, you see, like here's the deal. Um, I have a fair amount of experience when it comes to like the advertising stuff and um, like when it comes to like understanding the difference between impressions versus click through and uh, whether or not it's worth the money and things like that. And I know for like what I'm doing, I'm not necessarily looking to have just an inundation of people show up. Like what I would rather have is um more of a pointed kind of target thing going on where ultimately people come across subject matter that they find interesting and then they want to kind of participate in real time and then the next thing they're connecting through friends. Right. So like right now I have there's like what, like 15 people following like the Facebook page, and I've got a few subscribers here on YouTube. I've got a couple of people who um, show up regularly. The other night, as you, I don't know if you were witness to it or not, but like I got my first donation. Um, so even like the fact that people aren't necessarily around all the time isn't necessarily stopping the growth. I think it just kind of comes down to what kind of growth you're looking to have and what kind of content you're trying to have, like what kind of interaction you're trying to have. So, yeah, like the dude was like, "Well, I've got like this small gift card. You want a gift card?" And I was like, "Sure." And I thought it was going to be like a $3 gift card from, like he took a survey or something and he was just giving me the code for it, but that wasn't the case. Like it'll be enough to it's almost enough money to buy my cat the robot that I wanted to buy her for her to play with during the nighttime so she stops like beating on the door. so so that might be nice. But yeah, and I think right now I'm just trying to figure out the habits and stuff and trying not to bite off more than I can chew. And one of the things that I've learned from just running my own online business is that like paying for advertising can be kind of iffy, and I guess maybe like a YouTube channel might be a little bit different because if you're really just trying to get people to come and watch you, um, then you're not necessarily having to worry about having too many people show up and then um, having too much business or whatever, which is the case that, like, that could happen with the business that I was looking to advertise um, independently. But anyway, so there's a couple of people who've shown up. Um, yeah, so like though there's definitely that. Um, and so it's a little bit it's it's something that I think is going to be somewhat interesting. I would love to see it happen where, over the course of time, like people kind of got more familiar with me and they're like, hey, I will literally talk to you in real time about my issues. Whether, like the one person that's talked a couple of times, you know, chooses to do so through email because that's where they're most comfortable. Um, but I'm totally down for it. Like, totally down for doing the real time, you know, impressions or whatever. And if people feel like it's on par with getting like a quality like counseling session or whatever, like I feel like that's a really great compliment. And I feel like then I would feel like I'm actually making a positive influence on the world instead of how I feel a lot of the time these days, which is just like I'm a huge worthless pile of crap, you know? So then we have the loser party, right? She won't even look at me. I'm sure. I'm sure you got some stories. I think once you get to a certain it I feel like anybody who's worth anything, who's interesting at all has to have at least a couple of good stories. And like in what you find is that everybody wants to believe that they have a good story, but some people's good story is like that one time that they decided to drive 10 miles per hour over the speed limit and stand up in the sunroof. You know what I mean? And then like some people are like, "Do you remember that time that I was doing ecstasy and we were sliding down the hillside in the mud on the top of, trash can lids and seeing if we could slide between the semis playing Frogger, like just people have different levels of stories. But yeah. So, I guess we just kind of have to see how things go and how things grow and all that good stuff. But um I feel like I should like explain why I decided to do loser party tonight. And I feel like loser party is what's going to happen anytime that I just feel like spontaneously talking about stuff or just kind of hanging out with people. Um, because I don't really have a topic that I wanted to speak about necessarily. It just kind of felt like chilling a little bit. I have a Discord server. I haven't like made like an offshoot specific to this, but um I certainly have one available. I could update the description and stuff. Let's see here. I would love to make some friends. Like let's be friends. Dude, like the other day I was running around wrapping up my delivery day and I went to the gas station that's just a couple blocks down the street to get yet another round of energy drinks because I don't really drink soda. It's basically energy drinks and water. aka energy drink and water. Um, and it ended up being the first time like I introduced myself to a new person in probably at least a year. And so I I guess you're kind of like, well, um that's kind of really sad to think about, but at the same time I was really proud of myself because usually I just kind of keep to myself and not really talk to people publicly, especially people I might have to see on a regular basis in those kind of public roles of, gas station attendant. But, I let him learn my name and all of that stuff, so good for me, I guess. But so so I literally like I since we were talking about Discord, I'm bringing up the Discord on this computer, and apparently I haven't opened it in such a long time on the computer that it has to go through all this updating and stuff. So I sure hope it's not screwing up the feed of the stream. But yeah, like Discord was actually something that I intended to bring up the entire time because at the end of the day, uh, one of the target goals is to eventually have people uh, actually call or, do like a real time voice chat. So we can actually have a conversation and where people can hear both sides. Because otherwise, you're just listening to me, and, people who, just kind of randomly come across it just think I'm sitting here talking to myself. I swear, you just can't stay out of the attention spot. Ay, ay, ay. So I think right now the question would be if. Why is it up there? Like, no joke, the way it opened the Discord window, it's like mostly off the screen. So, what the heck? Man, I also feel like I should show you like my main display just because the way I've situated the windows on, like, I have a three monitor display, right? And the way I have it situated, the picture that is my background picture is a very specific one. It's uh, it's the picture of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park after he's broken his leg, and that choice was made by my partner when he was setting up the computer for me to use because it's kind of long story, but my computer was dying. He like kind of bequeathed me his old gaming computer in order to build his, and so when he did this bequeathment, he set it up for me and put this picture on it. So the way it lays out on my portrait style monitor is such that when I have the windows situated the way that they are, uh, his nipple is just staring at me, and it is so distracting. Why are you doing this to me, window? Like, it's so dumb. I forget what the command key is for move. Key for moving a window. Perfect. That was a lot easier than I thought. Oh shit. I don't know if you're still here, but so you know how like your Steam library keeps track of your play hours of certain games? So like I opened up a game probably over a week ago, and I have this really bad habit of like not restarting the computer and stuff. And so this game has been open this entire time. So I bring up Discord, and Discord says that I'm playing this game, and I'm like, oh my god, how many hours am I adding to this game's play hours just because I forget to close it? So now I have to go see. It says you've played 784 hours. This is awful. The total playtime of all time is 887.5 hours. And it's 100% because I forget to close the game. That's awful. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible. Hmm. Let's see here. Oh, I also had one of my videos blocked in Cuba the other day. So that was fun. Ooh, really? Is it like that's awkward? See, like I was about to ask if it was like the kind of thing where it's like a 70-year-old woman who keeps saying suggestive things and you're not sure if she's meaning to be that way or not. And then you're like, what's the harm in letting her have her fun? Well, dude, I need to make sure that I read the entire sentence before I start allowing my reaction to occur because I read, no, she's like 10. And I was like, What? It's like, come on, Lynn. Let's not be a total idiot here. Well, like, so here's the question. Like, have you had a conversation with her about it, or, like, are you interpreting? Okay, anyway, are you certain that she's actually flirting with you? As in, like, you know, she's into you, or is she just like a flirty person? Yeah, I got there. I got there. I got through the whole sentence eventually. So maybe you just want her to be flirting with you. Maybe she's not really flirting with you at all. Maybe she's shopping for like the the guy who's gonna like participate in the cuckold um, fantasy. Not not sure where real estate comes in. If you're making like a joke, it's like, well, maybe that's what gets her off, triggering her boyfriend. Right now, I just feel like there's a bunch of like inside jokes that I'm not following. So I'm like, ordering nachos? What are you talking about? Like, you like it? I don't know, man. Like, I kind of, back in the day when I was like in high school, I used to be into kind of being flirty with coworkers and stuff, and like I feel like it's okay to enjoy it. I assume that it's awkward only because like we have this kind of social expectation that unless you're 100% aware of the fact that her relationship is open and it's perfectly okay, um, like there's a certain level of, are you seriously doing this right now? But so this is like my opinion in regards to relationships in general. So this is like how I would see that, is that, it's not your place or your responsibility to be managing the boundaries of her relationship. So if she chooses to step outside of those or to violate some promise that she made to the other dude or whatever, like, as long as it's, I mean, I assume that you're literally just being flirty. You're not like taking her in the back room and like having some fun. Some of it wouldn't make sense as flirting for her. So, like, you interpret it as flirting, but she wouldn't? Like, well, then that sounds like a personal problem. Like, if you feel awkward about it and you say it's because she's flirting with you, but then you say she might not know she's flirting with me, like, that awkward feeling isn't because she's flirting with you, it's because you've chosen to interpret her behavior within the context of something that you enjoy. I mean, just like I can't think of a scenario. I There are scenarios where like in the workplace somebody slapping your ass might be okay, but in general, I think that people would say, there's not a lot of workplaces in which that is an acceptable thing to do, but like if you're like on the football field and everybody's getting their ass slapped, but one person happens to like subbing, it doesn't mean that, suddenly that one person is getting flirted with. So then you're really dealing with somebody else's insecurities. And so, like, what ends up happening in that situation is that instead of him dealing with it in the context of his relationship, he is projecting the problem as you being the problem. And the reality of it is like if it's her behavior that is bothering him, the person who has control over her behavior is not you, it's her. So you can talk to him all you want, it doesn't change what she does. And you could tell him all you want that, you're not encouraging it or whatever, but you've already told me that you like it and it, tickles your fancy sometimes. So, like, are you willing to lie to this guy's face? Well, the reason why I said that is because, you're saying that he's interpreting her interactions with you as flirting. Well, if you're not sure if she's actually flirting with you, but her boyfriend thinks that she's flirting with you, that would mean that he's looking at this behavior that is questionable, is not clearly suggestive of anything, especially not to you as the recipient of this behavior, and is concluding that she is flirting with you and then is having a problem based on that. And y'all can talk about it, like the two dudes can talk about it, but the only person who can change the behavior is her. So if he wants to feel more comfortable or he thinks the behavior needs to change, like, he's got to talk to her. Honestly, I think if you wanted to have a conversation about it with anybody, you should be talking to her about it. And just like, because I'm assuming that if you have that kind of interaction with her, that means that you're at least work friends. I'm not sure that that's true. Because, like, if you're in a situation where you and her are work friends, you're not in a relationship, you're not trying to get in her pants. The only reason why you would have difficulty having the conversation with her, where you're saying, hey, I like hanging out with you at work and I think we have fun and stuff, but I think your boyfriend is like misinterpreting what's going on between us. So, like, we should probably, like let's address it. The only reason why that conversation would be more difficult to have directly with her than it would be for you to have with him is if you actually are trying to sleep with her. Or, I mean, not necessarily trying to sleep with her, but have interest in sleeping with her. Because it would be like that interest would make you, like, want to refrain from giving her any reason to not flirt with you. Like, you don't want to own that. Like, you don't actually want to stop her behavior at all. So if you talk to just her boyfriend, then the onus on whether or not the behavior changes is the responsibility of this other guy. So if this other guy chooses not to say anything and the behavior doesn't change, you're fine with that. If he chooses to make a big deal out of it and they break up, you're fine with that. If he makes the conversation about it and nothing changes, you're fine with that. So, right, but that's the reason why you're not having the conversation with her, because if you genuinely had zero interest in her, there would be no threat and it would be extremely easy to have the conversation with her. All having the conversation with him does is invite him to be upset. just sounds like an excuse to me. You could be whatever you're going to be, but you ultimately choose how you respond to the person or, your personal state of things. I, I'm still kind of not sure why you have to have a conversation about it at all because it's not your relationship to manage at all. Right. But you're still talking about having a discussion about flirtation and having that discussion within their relationship is talking about their relationship. It's not talking about the workplace. You haven't talked about anything that says this is affecting our ability to do our job. But you still haven't defined anything that is saying this affects our ability to do our jobs. You are fully within the capacity to change the behavior without having dramatic conversations about it. So, the only thing that you've identified so far is that the boyfriend is potentially misinterpreting behavior, but I guess it's not the only thing you've identified because you've also identified that you are potentially misinterpreting behavior. And for all we know, the lady in question is simply just trying to have fun at work. I think that sounds pretty melodramatic. And I still think that the conversation is a lot easier to have with her if you have that level of interaction with her. So I guess like the question then becomes like people generally don't have flirtatious work relationships with people that they don't feel at least relatively close with. So if you don't have what you would identify as being a relatively close work friend relationship with her, then you need to put yourself in check because she's probably not actually flirting with you at all if you don't have like other interactions with her other than these things that could potentially possibly be interpreted as flirting. Well, if he works in a place where, like, let's be real here. If the dude works in a place where he could potentially have to create something like nachos or a taco salad or whatever, and those things also elicit a psychological response from him, then he needs to get therapy. He doesn't need to be, like, ultimately his boss needs to say that he needs to go on leave and get help. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but those things have nothing to do with what you're talking about in regards to this job point. But it is also not your position to be managing how this person does his job. So I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you have to decide how involved you want to be, but the reality of it is that, like, if you genuinely think that this guy could stab you in the back after being asked to make a taco salad at work because he thinks that you're flirting with his girlfriend, then, like, we're talking about, you know, raising a hostile work environment complaint or a restraining order against this person. I'm not sure about the finally. I mean, this has been my position the entire time. I just don't think it's any of your fucking business. Like, and you know, like, most of the stuff that you've been saying so far, like, we went from I think one of my coworkers is flirting with me to I think one of my coworkers might stab me in the face because he's misinterpreting an otherwise innocent behavior, but, like, you're not even being an honest actor when you're describing what's going on, because as I'm kind of poking and prodding and asking different questions, you're admitting that you would generally be interested in having those interactions with her, and that you enjoy the experience of, uh you enjoy that experience of flirting, or, you know, more than friends interactions with her. I'm not saying you're not being honest with me. I'm saying you're being, like, the honesty part of it is you're not being honest with yourself. Like, you're not recognizing what you're actually talking about, because, like, every time that I'm kind of poking and prodding, you're saying something that is kind of contradictory, or is giving details to a perspective that ultimately is saying, well, that's not exactly what you originally were talking about. It's not actually the scenario that you're talking about. And even when challenged, and I'm saying, like, the easiest conversation is this way, you're saying, no, 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 no. The easiest question is to talk to the dude, but you're saying the problem behavior is ultimately her flirtation or whatever. But your concern is this guy's going to stab you. And it's like, well, that those don't they just don't fly with each other. I'm suddenly distracted because of actors in the house. That's what I'm saying the entire time. That's exactly what I've been saying the entire time, that it's 100% a difficulty that you're having with yourself. That you aren't being honest about it because you're saying, like, I have to tell this guy to put himself in check. I have to tell this or whatever. But I'm saying that, like, you have to, like, because your original summarization of the situation is that this lady is flirting with you and it's making things awkward at work. Now, that description is like, awkward at work is completely minimizing the idea that somebody could do you serious, grievous bodily harm. And then you said that this lady is flirting with you, but then as I poke at that, you admit that you don't even know if she's actually flirting with you, and that in certain circumstances, her behavior is likely she's not intending to flirt with you. You just get a sexual response from it because of your interactions or your interests outside of work. So the presentation of the scenario is already flawed out the gate. So that's initially where there's a problem with you. But then when we start talking about it and you reveal things like the BDSM stuff, it's like, well, she has no control over your interpretation of things in that frame. But you 100% know that when it's tickling that part of your perspective, that she is likely not intending that unless you've had a discussion about your proclivities in that area. And every time I've tried to ask questions or clarify whether or not you have a particularly close work relationship with her, like work friends that you get along and have discussions with or whatever, you haven't answered. So I get the impression that no, you really don't. She's just somebody that you work with, and sometimes she seems flirty. So she probably is just a flirty person, and her boyfriend's extremely insecure. And you won't talk to her about it because you enjoy it. Even though that's the easiest conversation to have. You claim that you are afraid of this guy causing you grievous bodily harm, but you're still more willing to look him straight in the face and say, I want to clarify whether or not your girlfriend's flirting with me or trying to get in my pants. And like, you're willing to look at this guy who's already responding irrationally and try to convince him that you're not interested in fucking his girlfriend when you've already told me that you would sleep with her if you had the option. So you're going to be lying to him to his face and putting yourself into, a questionable position. And all of this stuff, like, to avoid the possibility that she would stop flirting with you, which is the reality of it is. That's the true reality, is you enjoy it. So you don't want to actually stop it. You just want to stop this guy from stabbing you in the face. So, I guess, like, what my point ultimately is the problem isn't the flirting. And it isn't the fact that her boyfriend's interpreting it as flirting. It is that you're trying to avoid getting stabbed in the face while also retaining all of the things that make you feel good. Lost all my viewers when I start chewing them out. Wow. Wow. So I'm just going to drop this in the chat for the sake of things. If people want to see what I'm going wow over. think I might be hungry. I don't know. Hunger is such a weird thing for me anymore. So I guess like I mean since everybody's disappeared or whatever anyway, just to identify some things. One of the things that I've done in my life is I have had a gastric bypass done because I used to be super fat and now I'm just a little fat. And so now that I've had that done, hunger is weird and I don't always get hungry. And then when I do get hungry, it feels very strange and almost like pain, which can freak you out because pain is also supposed to be like this sign of like time to go to the emergency room. And so it's like, well, is this like I need to have a sandwich or is this a I need to have serious medical intervention? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But no, I don't legitimately think I need any kind of intervention. I know I'm just hungry, but I certainly had more than one time in my life where I didn't feel too safe with it. I'm also very sleepy. I'm starting to get very sleepy. Good times. Now I have a song in my head. So, you know, now that I'm kind of doing the by myself thing, um, like let's talk about why I decided to do the loser party today. Loser party today, um, it spun up because I was doing delivery. I was feeling kind of confronted. I don't know how else to put it. I just kind of, because of my life circumstances and the fact that, like, I have professional qualifications to do much more complex work than doing delivery. And there are just days where it gets to me, where, I don't know, I feel very convicted. I feel like every order that I complete is actually proof of failure in my life. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if I wasn't just proving it over and over and over. And I know everybody kind of goes through those kinds of days, and maybe some of us have more of those kinds of days than other people do. And There are a fortunate few people who never have to really experience those feelings, and, you know, they suck, but, good for them, I guess. So I was feeling particularly convicted because, rent is due next week, and of course, money matters always kind of get under my skin, and they're a very quick and easy way to make me feel inadequate, and yeah. So I was thinking to myself about what all I needed to do in order to accomplish certain um, goals. Like, I have to have X amount of dollars and be able to turn it over to the landlord by Thursday, and just bada bada ba. So it was hitting pretty hard, and I was having a hard time with it. And um, a lot of times, what happens when that kind of thought wave hits me is I start, having to balance and battle uh, the borders of a panic attack. And it sucks because you're like, I'm otherwise fine. I don't need to be having a panic attack right now. I mean, not that anybody needs to have those ever, but like sometimes it's really understandable why you're having one. And then there are other times where it's like, this is pointless. This is ridiculous. This has no basis in, reason. Even the inspiration for this panic attack is irrational. Like, I've had him over spilling a soda on the carpet. So, anyway, I was in the car, driving along, feeling convicted, having my uh, slow dance with the panic attack, and just struggling with it. And so I got all the way home, and this was like, well, no, like, scale it back just a little bit. But, like, so I'm trying to head to my last delivery, like my last shop for delivery, because, I work mostly, I work with Instacart, which means that I go grocery shopping for people. I get all of their groceries, I pack them up, I put them in my car, and I drive them to their houses. And I generally enjoy that. I enjoy, the pattern of behavior. I enjoy um, the simple task of it. I enjoy knowing that there's a legitimate need for it and a legitimate, like, outcome. Like, I'm not just creating something that a person might put on a bookshelf and forget that they bought it, kind of thing. Like, people use the groceries that I bring to their homes. And recently I've been getting a lot of chocolate chip cookie making ingredients, which is kind of fun. And, you know, yay for cookies. So, what was happening this time, though, is that I got given this delivery. It was towards the end of the night because they stopped sending out delivery options around 8 p.m. local, at least here. And so I know I'm heading towards my last delivery of the day, but it's for like 12 bucks, which is not a lot of money, but we're at a point in our need to make the rent that 12 bucks is 12 bucks. And I was already feeling convicted about the fact that I made the decision to buy like this huge 5-pound bag of frozen chicken strips because I've been eating them a lot lately. I really like them. So it's like, this is a great buy, but it's also a tough trigger to pull when, you know, like that bag costs like 18 bucks and you're like, any blah blah blah. So I was feeling a little vulnerable. Ended up getting that final order pulled because it was, a whole situation. I ended up having to have an argument with the support team at Instacart. Ended up having to negotiate a few things. Had to convince the person that, the policy wasn't exactly as they were citing it to me, and it was just super, super frustrating. And then I finally got out of the conversation, and then I had that moment of, I can't believe I am back in this space where I am having arguments about $12, where my life has gotten so, you know, so much disheveled again that I have to be concerned about every dime. And it's really difficult for me right now. And I know it's a first world problem. I know that, like, there are certainly situations that could be far worse than what I'm looking at right now. But for me, this is just a really tough pill to swallow because, I felt like I went through my rock bottom already. I hit it hard in 2013. I was destroyed back then. Like, bankrupt, barely me, barely avoided living out of my car. And the only way I got out of that possibility is that I ended up, like, legitimately being so sick that, I required hospital intervention. And when the hospital confirmed that I was that sick, that was when um, I was able to get a little bit of help from family. Because prior to that, they just thought I was being a deadbeat and making poor choices and allowing myself to be attached to, you know, I was allowing myself to be attached to, a deadbeat boyfriend and everything at the time. So I hit rock bottom so bad back then, and I have been working hard to recover from it, and I've gotten so far, and I was been very, very proud of how far I've come. So at the beginning of this year, I had finally, like, really gotten to a place where, I personally could go grocery shopping without thinking, like, how much money do I have in the bank? Do I have to worry about how many dollars I have? I didn't have to make choices like, I'm going to get the bread instead of the milk or vice versa. Like, I could just get what sounded good. If I felt like having steak today, I could have a steak today. I didn't have to go, is it in the budget? And like, if I wanted to buy extra monster because it was on sale, I could do so. Um, Nothing was like that big of a deal. Well, that's all kind of gone to shit, and I'm back penny pinching and worrying about this stuff, and it just hit me pretty hard. So, where did loser party come in? Which is what I was talking about all of this for in the first place. Um, I decided I wanted to have this stream tonight because when like, after I got all this argument done, after I kind of reoriented. Like, I admit, like, I ended up crying about it, and then I was like, this is stupid. I'm crying over this stupid interaction, this stupid event. It's not that big a deal. I I was just and it's frustration tears. It's just the sheer frustration and the disappointment and the feelings of abandonment, recognizing that, like, at the beginning of this year when I was working this job, I thought that I was on a path to a real career finally. Like, I'd finally found my pace and I was going to make something of it. And I was really ready for it. And then, the people I was working for, made the decisions that they made. And then suddenly I'm on my ass again. And the people I thought I was making friends with kind of just blipped out because work friends do as they do. And, like, when you don't have work in common anymore, well, you don't talk anymore. And it just sucks because, like, I genuinely liked the people that I was working with and I wanted to be friends with them. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming like a real adult. And I think other people probably have that experience, but it's like that moment when you realize, like, we're talking about, going to Christmas parties and, taking business trips and stuff. And I'm like, I'm finally, like, in that adult, uh, businessy space. And I got kicked out. And it just, it's really messed with my perception of self. And I'm not sure how that recovery is going to go. But while I was sitting in my car and I was just kind of dealing with the washing over of these feelings and definitely feeling utterly disappointed in myself, crying, whatever, I was also scrolling Facebook, which is, a terrible habit of mine. And I came across this post by one of my kind of casual acquaintances, and it was about, like, the Santa Claus hotline. And, I mean, like, let's be real or whatever. I'm not sure there was ever a time in my life where I genuinely believed that Santa was real. Like, I'm sure maybe when I was really, really young, um, that, for a snippet of time, my parents had uh, bolstered that belief in me. But, like, I genuinely don't remember what it was like to find out. So, like, I feel like I've always known that Santa was my parents. So, like, it wasn't me grasping at this, oh, remember the days when I believed in Santa. But for whatever reason, I felt compelled, and so I called the Santa hotline. And I cried while talking to the Santa hotline and basically just was like, I am having this moment in my life. I'm feeling so utterly disappointed. I am just awash in my own failure. And I know that things could be worse. And I know that everybody's kind of dealing with their own stuff right now. But, like what I said to him was like, I don't even know if a real person ever listens to this stuff. But in the event that somebody who is real listens to these for one reason or another, I'm asking you to send me some positive vibes just to try and pick up the pace or what have you, like to help me get my brain resituated. So I just like rambled at this Santa Claus hotline for like 5 minutes. And then I hung up. And then I went upstairs to my home and had the uncomfortable conversation with my partner about how, um, I was asking him, like, about the rent and stuff. And I hate having those conversations, and it's just like, I just had to be an adult and I had to acknowledge my feelings of failure. And I definitely, like, I joke around a lot about how eventually I'm gonna hit it big and I'm gonna be able to be a sugar mama and then he'll never have to work again and da 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 da. And, low key, it's like certainly something that if it could happen, if I could figure out like what my niche was and actually make a living in that kind of way, like I'm totally I'm totally down. Like if we could figure it out, I'm totally down. But at least right now, we're certainly not in a space where that's gonna be happening. And so that means that there are these uncomfortable conversations, and I have to, like, I have this tendency of taking it on personally and just trying to fix it instead of having the conversation. Like, I will own the entire, like, I'm very scattered right now, I guess. But, I kind of wanted to explain it because I feel like, I'm likely, definitely not the only person who is experiencing this feeling, especially right now during like this COVID time where, we're all kind of facing some struggles and we're all probably, especially people who are not like super well established with like a nest egg that they can kind of tap into or whatever. Like those of us in my general, um, my generation, we're just not in that financial space for the most part. So what ends up happening is you can identify that, the rent is due or whatever, and that, one person seems to have a firmer grasp on what's going on, what needs to happen, how much money is owed, or whatever. And, I mean, that happens. That's fine. Like, that can often just be like a general, like, organization, like, habit difference. And I don't think it's inherently bad that, like, one person would have a better grasp of the information than the other. But I think what ends up happening, though, at least in our home, is that it leads to me keeping track of things and then like an underlying expectation that I will remind or I will manage and then just say, okay, this is what needs to happen. And it's very hard for me because I also have difficulty with the confrontation to say, you need to give me money, which is a really sweet deal for the other person because what ends up happening is like if the energy bill is due, I pay it. And I'm not always forceful enough to be asking for the other person's part. And we've certainly had more than one conversation that has gone, well, you just have to tell me what I owe you. And I'm like, why do I have to remind you? Like, this happens every month. But at the same time, it's like, why is it a big deal that that it's just a conversation? Like, I don't understand why I have difficulty with it in the way that I do. And I certainly don't understand why, when it comes down to the end game and, it's time for the bill to get paid, like, I will just pay it. And, well, I guess, like, I understand why I will just pay it because, especially if my name is on the list of people responsible for the bill, and therefore, like, if it goes defaulting, like, they will still call me. It's not like I get out of it just because, like, I'm the person who paid the half that got paid. But I need to be better about it. But anyway, like, the loser party certainly came from the fact that I called Santa. I called Santa and begged Santa to send me some positivity. And then I also said that, you know, if they decided, if they were like legitimately granting wishes, my small scale wish would be a reclining rocking chair. Because of all the things that I've lost because I had to tap into the savings that I was building up. One of the things that I was saving up for was a rocking chair. And I've wanted to have a rocking chair for a very, very long time. We had one at my parents' house. I adored it. And I just thought, wow, like, I could have one of my very own. And so I was saving up for it. And I was almost there, almost ready to buy it. I was just trying to give myself just a little extra wiggle room because it just felt like I needed to create just a little bit more space in my savings before I dumped all of it into a chair. And that's when I lost the job, and managing the fallout of that has absorbed all of my savings, except for my secret savings that I am fighting vehemently not to touch. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like, these are the feels, this is where I'm at. I know that I'm not the only one who has stepped into this space, and if you're in this space with me, we can do it! Or we can at least watch the world fall to pieces around us with us. At least we're not alone this time. And then one final note, and then I'm going to go because I am hungry and I need to make some of those chicken strips that I mentioned. um, so I had like this thought today. And, we joke around about the zombie apocalypse being like the way the world ends. And, ha ha ha, yuck, yuck, yuck. Um, I I have since concluded that we are actually living in the zombie apocalypse as we are going day to day right now. And I've concluded this on the basis of facts that we're all trudging around blindly, aimlessly, dragging our feet. We certainly look like the Walking Dead. We're all a disaster. Half of us go out of the house in our pajamas anymore. Like Walmart attire is now across the entire city, depending on, you know, time of day or whatever. It's such a strange time to be kicking it and trying to figure out, life because we're all still facing the normal like existential crises and acceptance of our mortality and all of this stuff that we would generally be going through as, normal human beings with a normal psyche development. But it's compounded by the communal experience of a catastrophic pandemic illness. So it's like blunt force trauma, and it makes me wonder how many of us are actually able to process at this speed on these levels in a way that's going to be genuinely healthy for us. Are we all going to be, dying in denial like the, COVID case people who pass away saying, why aren't you giving me the miracle cure? This is like COVID's a hoax. Like, quit telling me I have COVID. I have lung cancer or whatever. Like, I've heard that story so many times and it still surprises me. I don't know. I think we just need to figure out, like, how do we navigate the zombie apocalypse that we have in order to make it more comfortable and easier for us to see a way out of it. I mean, I might be struggling in life in general, but I'd still like to see more details of it. I'd like to see an ocean in which I could swim. Like I want to have more experiences than what I've had so far, and I feel constantly suffocated by the idea that that might not be a possibility. So then the waves rush in. But at least for now, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna head out, gonna go chill and try to relax a little bit before I go into sleep. I appreciate everybody who stopped in, everybody who said hi. Mateo, it was fun talking to you, even if you decided to be sassy and confusing at times. Um, Always appreciate seeing you. for anybody who's made it through the time with me today or any day, whether or not you're watching this later or whatnot. Would certainly like to see some better numbers on the likes and subscribes. So you can do likes, subscribes, ring the bell, blah, 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 blah. Next time around, maybe we'll identify more significantly the Discord channel. Um, it was a great reminder today that, there might be some genuine interest there. I do have a Discord channel that, is ready and available. I just hadn't put it up in any of the links because it hadn't come up yet. So I think we'll start that next week, or not next week necessarily, but the next time I stream. Um, yeah, because at the end of the day, like, why not? Like, let's genuine community, one step at a time. So anyway, until then, take care of yourselves. Be kind. Try to put some positivity out there, because the world is otherwise tragic and it sucks. So, I'm going to take my stuffy nose and my hunger and go have some chicken strips. So, I'll see you probably tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Monday night. Alright?